Now that you've run the event and entered in all the information, you'll want to go ahead and start pulling reports. There are two reports that we'll cover that are optional. It's more of an informative piece of information in case for some reason you ever need to pull it. There's one report, which is results. You'll want to generate that report after 10 events and keep doing it for each 10 events. Those are the reports that are posted down on deck so the swimmers can see how they swam, for the parents to see. Usually there's one or two copies that are printed on deck, maybe one by the doors entering the swim facility. It's entirely possible that the officials may want a copy as well. And then the last piece, we'll just kind of quickly touch upon one other report. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to click on the reports menu, and you'll see there's a number of different things in here. And if you have any spare time, either before a meet or after a meet, and you want to see what some of these are, there's no harm in generating reports. It just gives you an idea on how you want to look at some of the information. We're going to focus on a couple things today. We're going to focus on the meet program. We're going to focus on the lane timer sheets. Both of those are the optional things I spoke about, but we're really going to focus on results and scores. So the first thing that we'll do is let's talk about results. So we'll go ahead and click on results, and you will see that you will get a screen, and it will show you initially under the session list, it will show you the event that you've been scoring, and then in the event list, it will show you all the events. And what you'll want to do is pull reports based upon the events that are scored. And as I said before, it's a good idea to pull a report, generate it, and print it for about every 10 events. I mean, certainly play around with it, but we want to try to put as many events on a sheet of paper as we can. So the first thing that you'll do is manually select the events. And in this case, we're picking seeded events, but it will still generate a report, and you'll seeded essentially will just show us the final results, and then you have the scored events. So we'll just pick a handful here just to give some idea of what it looks like. Now, down below, you have a number of different print options. By default, it's a good idea to print in double. It's a little bit easier to read. You can certainly do it as a triple column format, although I wouldn't recommend it. Everything else can remain the same and standard. At the very end of the meet, if you want to generate one final PDF or just print one final result, you can do that. There's a select all option at the top here, or a deselect. And then the last thing that you'll want to do is focus on making sure that as an event is seeded, like for example, if we deselect all of these and we select just the scored, you want to make sure that all the rounds are in there, and it includes the individuals and relays, and that the genders are all versus just male or female. So we'll go ahead and we'll reselect some of these events again, and just to get an idea of it. Once you've selected the events that you want, really the easiest way to generate a report is clicking the Generate Report button. So we'll do that. You'll see it generates. And in this case, because we've only run one event and have times on it, you'll see that. But this will fill out with information about all of the different events that have been scored. And if we go back and we close this, and let's skip to only showing finals, then what we can do is we can select a handful of these as well. We can generate the report. And in this case, again, it only shows it because it's finals. But as long as you leave it toggled to all rounds, you should be okay. And then there's a couple ways you can close the screen. Obviously, you have the X button here, but throughout Meet Manager, there's this icon, a folder with an up arrow, which allows you to exit, so you can click that as well. So that's pulling reports for the results. The next thing you want to do is, at the very end of the meet, pull a scores report. And in this case, you really don't have to do much of anything other than just selecting all. And now there's two different report types that you'll probably want to pull. And in this case, you may want to generate a PDF, especially if you're sending the report to another team. So first we'll pull the team report, and we'll go ahead and generate that. And you'll see in this instance, it'll break out the results for each team. And in this case, since we've only scored an event for the Rays, you'll see the Rays have 16 points. This is who determines who wins the meet overall. And this is information that can be printed and also can be saved, printing directly to a PDF. And then we can mail that out to the coaches of the other teams as well. If you change that from a team to an individual, then what you'll get is you'll actually get a breakdown of the swimmers, how they placed overall, how many points they generated for the team, and this information can be used to calculate high point at the end of the year. So it's definitely a good idea to keep a PDF of that as well. Not something that you necessarily need to send to the other team, although it is, in good practice, a good idea to show who generated points. So they may want that and may ask for it, and that's something that the HyTek operator can generate and save and leave for the coaches to send out. So that's pretty much it for the scores. There really aren't any specific options in here that need to be adjusted or modified. As long as you're just pulling those two reports and at least having one copy available, then that's the easiest thing to do. The last thing that we'll touch upon, the last two things we'll touch upon are the meet programs and the lane timer sheets. We'll start with a meet program. And this is something at the beginning of the event. If there are none printed, then the recommendation is to generate as many as they need. And usually you have officials from both teams. You have some coaches. You have people who are doing judging. They may all want copies. So in this case, you're selecting all. I recommend a triple column. It keeps everything concise. And again, you're just clicking Generate Report. You'll see that this is a pretty full report, which just indicates the different events and of the heats who's swimming. You'll obviously see as you toggle through here, we've got multiple pages. In this case, it's 3 pages, which is why we do it in 3 columns, because at that point, it does make it a little bit easier to try to save some paper. And again, you can print it and close out of it. That's really the only time that you would need a meet program. We typically don't sell them at the events, and we don't print on demand. But in the event that an official or someone from one of the teams needs them, and for some reason they're not available, you'll know how to print them. And then the last thing is polling reports for, or generating the lane and timer sheets. And the best way to do this is to, again, select all the events, and you will want to mark the format as 2 events on the lane sheets. All the heats, everything else is all pre-configured and set and ready to go. And then again, you'll generate the report. And what you'll see is you will see lane 1, event 1, lane 1, event 2. And for example, in heat 1, there are no swimmers. In heat 2, there are no swimmers. And in heat 3, there is 1 swimmer. What happens is we'll go ahead and print these off, cut them in half, and then they'll be stacked on clipboards, and that's how the scorers will enter in their times. If you look specifically to the right of the seed time, you'll see 3 different empty boxes, and those boxes are for the 3 scorers to enter in their times. It's your responsibility as the automation clerk for the event entering in the information into the Meet Manager system that you're picking the middle time. If for some reason a user or a swimmer has 2 times that are identical, then that time would stand. But the middle time is selected because it's the average of the 3 times. And you'll notice that in doing the entire event and switching to the last page, it's still 126 pages, then we need to cut them in half and stack them. But it does allow us to group everything together by the lanes so that we can separate everything quickly and have it available. Your runners will be taking these sheets after every event and running them back so we can start entering the times into the system. And again, you can click the X or click the up arrow folder icon, and you can close out of this as well. And that is reporting for Meet Manager.